Over 7 million different animals inhabit our planet.
Skin pattern for an individual giraffe is constant throughout its life, but it can shift a little bit depending on season as far as the lightness of the dark.
What can they teach us?
Because we're physiological dorks, right? And Chris, we're not the only ones. NASA, like the NASA.
My favorite, Cape Canaveral.
Many species are in crisis and need your help. Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.
Welcome to All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm Angie.
Hello from across the United States again, Angie.
Hey, Chris. It's so nice to hear your voice.
Yeah, I know. It's sunny in California here, and the weather's great.
A little sunshine goes a long way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's really great.
Yeah, no, it's still a little warm here in Florida, but overall, it's pretty darn nice out, and enjoying the weather, and just really happy and excited to be here with you this evening talking about giraffe.
This tall animal. I mean, everybody loves giraffes. I mean,
I'm smiling so big right now. My cheeks hurt.
Like,
my cheeks hurt. Mm-hmm.
Who doesn't like? If you don't like giraffes, okay, you can turn this off and don't unsubscribe. No, don't unsubscribe.
Yeah, careful, Chris.
I'm just saying, like, how do you not love giraffes? They're just so unique.
I'm looking at a photo of one right now. And I feel like I'm looking at a photo of my kid. My heart is like skipping a beat in love. It's just, they're so cute and beautiful and majestic and unique. Holy smokes, right?
Yes. Yeah, good physiology, really crazy physiology. They're horned, so that is one of Angie's favorites, or the ossicones.
That's right. Hoof and horn club, baby, all the way. Yes.
Yeah.
Another hoof stock. So, but a really unique, iconic one, like you said, Chris. Stick with us today, and you're going to learn some amazing biology and physiology, fun, or what I call fun cocktail party facts, or trivia night facts that you can impress your friends with. And I don't know about you, Chris, but for me, my love of giraffes started long before I ever met one. It started actually in an animal physiology class.
Okay.
Yeah, way back in the day, good old
last century, or no? Yeah, it was last century.
I know.
Close,
it seems like it. Actually, it doesn't. I remember this class because it was animal physiology, and it was amazing. And I think I took it as a freshman or a sophomore, and it was more of a junior, senior level class. But I just was so excited to get in it and learn more. And my counselor had advised me not to, but I went against their will, which is, if you know me, once in a while, I like to go against the rules.
Yes, you do. We've had this discussion. John's the rule maker, and you're the rule breaker.
Yes. But it's even fun. It's we've been hanging out with each other for so long that now actually I'm a little bit more the rule follower and he's the rule breaker. And I part of me loves it. Part of me is like, oh no, what's he turning into?
Get trouble.
So, it gives me mixed emotions. But overall, I like it. I'm like, good for you, honey. And then now I'm all conservative. And anyways, in this animal physiology class, we learned a lot. Of course, I think one of the ways to get students interested in different body parts. I know I spoke about the camel being one of the ones we highlighted, but we also highlighted the giraffe and some of their unique physiological features, I believe, in their cardiac system, for instance.
Yeah, the okapi. Yeah, and we talked a lot about the okapi.
Yeah,
so very similar.
Yeah, and so learning about how they can do some of the unique physiological things and be so tall and still. I think if you stick with us today, we'll share with you some of the secrets to how giraffes, being so tall, can basically not get lightheaded after getting a drink and then raising their head back up. That was one of the.
And just, I mean, not only those facts, but just, I was always thinking about it too, is how in the heck do they get blood all the way up that neck to the brain? Because the brain needs so much blood. We know that as physiologists, and it's incredible. So stick with us. We're going to cover that. Giraffes, even-toed ungulate, Angie's favorites, Angie and the odd-toed. Angie definitely.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more of an odd-toed girl, but I mean, even-toed is also right up my alley.
right. And so they have the cloven hoof with the two toes, and so the family Giraffidae. Just quickly, again, that's the okapi giraffe. They both have 7 cervical vertebrae, but just in giraffe, it's much longer, right? And so just really, really cool adaptations. Now, most people, Angie, should know what a giraffe looks like. I mean, come on.
Yes, I don't think we need to spend too much time but yes, but I think it's important to point out that the pattern of their coat, kind of the spots or shapes that make their
pelage,
that make their unique pattern, does vary depending. It can be smaller, medium, larger in size, sharp edged, fuzzy edged, yellow to black in color, and the skin pattern for an individual giraffe is constant throughout its life. But it can shift a little bit depending on season as far as the lightness or the darkness of it. And so, yeah, it's just.
They are. And just some of the statistics on them. Did their legs can be almost as tall as me, 6 feet. I'm 6'5". So 6 feet, 1.8 meters.
Yes. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Chris.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking legs now. Their feet, let's move it to their feet. Those cloven hooves that you talked about, 2-toed ungulates. Their feet can be the size of a dinner plate.
That's crazy. It's crazy.
With a diameter of about 30 centimeters.
Right.
That's
and
incredible.
Huge. Yeah. The males can stand up to 18 feet or 5.5 meters. It's almost 2 stories tall, right? And everybody knows that. They go, and see them in under human care, and they see how tall they are. The female's 14 feet or 4.3 meters. They can weigh up to 3,000 pounds. Which is, that like you said, those hooves have to support that weight, or 1360 kilograms. Females are about half that weight. So about 1,500 pounds or 680 kilograms. So there's some statistics on their sizes. They're huge. I think their necks are almost over 6 feet tall too, is what I was reading, the legs and the neck. Now the range, Ange, this made me sad looking at this. I guess we've seen it for quite a few species. We did lions a couple weeks ago. It seemed like, I have this historical distribution and current distribution. Historical distribution, they were pretty much all over Africa. Just I guess you'd say the deep Congo really wasn't where they were from. And then the Sahara Desert, just the deep parts of it. But, up through almost into Southwest Asia, or the Middle East, they ranged a little bit into there. And North Africa, and then pretty much the lower half of Africa, they were all over.
Oh, yeah.
And now today, I mean, geez, you look at their fragmentation. It's just, it's really sad. It's really sad.
It is. They're definitely a species that has the ability to adapt to different types. I mean, they prefer, of course, savannas and open woodlands. But like you said, historically, their range was, all through Africa and
all over. Yeah, all over.
And now, of course, it is native to Africa, but it's really mainly only found south of the Sahara. And northern Botswana. They are pretty much gone from Western Africa, except for, I guess, there's a small population in Niger. And in South Africa, they're pretty much restricted just to game reserves.
Yeah. So it's like, when people say, and I've heard this for the last few years now, oh, these animals belong in the wild. And you turn around and you're like, what wild? Where is it? Show me where the wild's at.
Yeah.
There's not much of it left.
No, well, exactly. And of course, with human populations booming, especially in countries like Africa, it is hard. There's competition for resources and land is utilized in different ways. And so naturally, I think, of course, their populations just theoretically are probably going to historically decline. But basically, their numbers since 1985, giraffes, the populations were over 150,000, if not more, back in 1985 when I was just a wee little one. I was too young. I was just born. I was too young to even really be into 80s music, but I'm
you were just born. You were born like 10 years after that.
Yeah,
so
wink, right? Yeah. But no, since 1985, basically about a third of their population's been wiped out. Now there's believed to be 90,000 or less, and a lot of these. Definitely on the population declining. The International Union of Conservation and Nature declares that they're vulnerable. That was in 2016. They reassessed the population and they went from least concern to vulnerable, basically pointing out that their population has taken this dramatic dip in the past 20 or 30 years. And interestingly enough, I think it's really important to point out for me, and I don't know how about you, Chris, until recently, I guess I wouldn't have thought the giraffe were that threatened.
Yeah, I mean,
and if you're listeners, if you're there as well, if you're like, huh, what giraffes? They're they're going to be endangered if we don't do something. I don't know if you would say it in that kind of weird accent that I just used, but
no,
but
but
if you're kind of, I would have definitely fallen in that boat about a year or two ago until I just started. I read an article. I think it was around 2016 when it came out with the IUCN had basically declared them as vulnerable and that their population numbers were in steep decline. That it was like, what? Is that even real? Because I went to Africa twice and easily saw them wherever I went. But now looking back on it, it's just the parts of Africa that I was able to be in. That's why I saw giraffe. Not everybody gets to see them. And that a lot of the specialists out there for the different giraffe surveys or for like the IUCN, there's a giraffe and okapi specialist group. They talk about this as a silent extinction.
Right. I've been reading that. Yeah.
Maybe something we saw with hippos once again where, they're fine. Perhaps because they're not as highlighted with the poaching crisis or with maybe being, their body parts potentially being used for traditional medicine back in Asia. So, and I think the other thing too is because we do see them when we, like a lot of tourists, when you go to game reserves, you see them. So you think, oh, they're fine. Or if you go to a zoo, you see them and you think, oh, well, they're fine. But it really is important to, I think, for people to really start taking notice that there is an issue. The populations are declining.
Yes. And
just because we see them at the zoos or because if you have been lucky enough to go on safari, you probably do see one. That does not translate to how their conservation status in the wild.
Yeah, or how healthy the population is. I mean, it's really scary.
And if you think about it too, it's not an easy one to fix because it's not this little creature that like, oh, okay, we'll just reserve these, couple, thousands of acres of habitat and they'll be fine. I mean, these are large megafauna, of course, similar to elephants and rhinos and hippos that they need a lot of room. And so it's not just a snap of the fingers, easy fix.
No, it's not. And it's, and I think going into, why I care about giraffes, I think one of the things I thought about was, they're a major browser in these ecosystems. They browse the top of trees. So they have this really, again, we always talk about these ecological niches. And so they have a really specific ecological niche that another species can't fit, into. You can't evolve a giraffe. It's taken millions of years for these animals to develop these long necks, to be able to reach that browse that they like. And they're critical to that ecosystem and the habitat.
Yeah, Chris. I mean, here's the deal. I think it's time we start sticking our necks out for the giraffe.
Yeah.
But
Here comes the puns. All right. I've been waiting for these. It's been a couple weeks since you've got some.
I've been holding that in for the past 7 minutes that we've been talking. But seriously, yes, you bring up very, very valid points. And also from an ecosystem role, giraffes are hosts to ticks, troublesome ticks. Let's be honest. Nobody likes them. I'm sure they have a role somewhere, something, but we're not entomologists, so we can't discuss ticks on this pod. Yeah. But the oxpecker bird rests on, and if you've seen classic pictures in the savannah, you've seen the oxpecker bird resting on the back and the necks of giraffes, removing these ticks from their skin. So they have what's called ticks, a mutually beneficial relationship. So
there you go. Okay. Remember we talked about it in my favorite episode, the honey badger. But remember the what are those birds? The honey birds that follow the honey badgers around. Remember that mutualistic behavior? Yeah. See, this is why all these animals
they help they all depend on each other. The oxpecker needs them, man. And then just of course too from an economical importance to humans, we have obviously not time on this podcast to go back tens of thousands of millennia to talk about how humans and giraffes have interacted anywhere with the African culture, from medicinal dances to naming rights to folk tales and folklore. Oh my gosh, I have a book at home that my dear friend Allison, of course, our rhino expert.
Yeah, rhino expert.
Needs to translocate rhinos. It's this fun folklore book about how the giraffe's neck got so long. And that's traditionally seen a lot in, I think, the Swahili culture. And so anyway, so they've just been, they're ingrained in our culture. And then of course, now even more fast forward. Now, of course, they're just, everybody knows giraffes with a long neck. You can't walk past an aisle in a store in the baby section without half the stuff being giraffe, right? Like it's, I know. I mean, everybody loves giraffes. Everybody loves giraffes. Stuff. I mean, I think we seriously got like 5 or 6 or 8 stuffed giraffe toys.
What was the teething giraffe? We had the teething giraffe.
Oh yeah,
right? For football boys,
our little blankies. I mean, there's just they're just part of our life, and so from that point of view, that's more of kind of we owe them, or we're just so integrated. But of course, from an economical point of view, in these safari parks, they are helping. I mean, they're a real crowd pleaser, right? And they're not like the lions who just lay there. They're actually doing stuff when you see them, usually browsing and walking around, sometimes socializing. So they're definitely a crowd pleaser, and a lot of these, of course, safari parks or reserves generate some good income for the local people in that area. So they're definitely worth sticking up for and bringing attention to, about the fact that their numbers are plummeting, and that people need to act now. And the best thing to do is to share with friends. Hey, did you guys know that giraffes are in trouble? What? Yeah. And then just get that conversation going. And then we'll help point towards the end of the podcast. We'll help point you in the right direction of some of the things that you can do. If you're a fellow giraffe lover like myself, and pretty much most all of my friends.
Everybody.
Seriously.
Yes. You won't be my friends.
I don't want to put any threats out there, but let's be real here. If you don't like giraffe.
I got to shout out to Jesse. Jesse loves giraffes, and at the Hamilton.
Did he work with them before? Do you know if he?
Yes. I mean, he did the okapi, right? So he loves the okapi, and then also working with his giraffes, they have there in New Zealand.
Oh, well, maybe we'll have to get Jesse on for another interview about more specifics with being a giraffe keeper.
Yeah, that's such a good one. Yeah, maybe I should. I'm in touch with Jesse all the time.
I know our listeners would. Yeah, I know our listeners would love probably more intimate details of what it's like to work on a daily basis with those beautiful
giraffes. Yeah, it's pretty funny because they have to walk them up from their back, and it's really cool to watch them walk. So, do you know how to say their scientific name? It's a mouthful.
Well, yeah, I'll give it a try.
Okay.
Let me find it. Oh,
see if I can put you on the.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm squinting. I think it's a sign I need glasses, darn it. But I wasn't born until after 1985, right? Yeah, right.
That's right.
Okay. Giraffe camelopardalis. Dallas?
It's pretty. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, camelopardalis. Yeah.
Camelopardalis.
Do you know why they called him camelopard? Yeah. Do you know why it's called?
Say
that?
it 4 times fast,
Not
and then we'll talk.
Yeah, camelopardis. So the reason is they called him the camel leopard.
Yeah,
because
I can see
they
that
look like
name.
camels with leopard spotting. Because that is their coat patterns look like leopard spotting. So that's their scientific name. Now, the subspecies, there's some debate.
Great science debate time. I love it.
I know. So it's genetics, and genetics are showing some things. Today they recognize 9 subspecies, but some genetic studies have shown 4?
Sure. So
8.
The bottom line, because I'll stick with the IUCN because they stick with me. I don't know if they do. I don't know if they do, but maybe if they listen, they might. But the IUCN only recognizes 1 species with 9 subspecies. Okay.
Yeah, 1 species.
However, in 2011 there was a study that suggested 8 species Okay, not subspecies, but 8 species.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then there was a
Subspecies.
study in 2016, so that I think used mitochondrial DNA, but basically said there are 4 species, not 8 or 9 subspecies.
Right.
4
Yeah, that's the
species:
one I
the
saw,
northern giraffe, the southern giraffe, the reticulated giraffe, and the Maasai giraffe. Then, of course, scientists, people that specialize in this, have gone back and forth highlighting some problems in the data interpretations and the conclusions. And so, therefore, I think that's where the IUCN is just focusing on the one species with these 9 subspecies.
Right.
And there's pros and cons of different ways to look at it, because a lot of times subspecies aren't given as much protection or attention as the species are. And maybe that's the IUCN's approach. Is like, hey, you know what? Some of these subspecies, we're not going to be able to save them. There's 100 or 50 or 250. I mean, the numbers are so low. And I don't want to speak for them. I'm not sure what, they were using the best science given at the time to determine that they really want to only recognize the one species.
The one species. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so they have like some of the subspecies now today: West African, Kordofan, Nubian, reticulated. That's the one we always see at zoos, right? The reticulating or Maasai.
Yeah,
are the
usually
ones that
those
I usually
two.
see. Yeah. Yeah. The Rothschilds, Thorn and Crofts.
Rothschilds
Angolan,
are pretty
and South
popular at
African.
zoos. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. And then I guess the differences between a lot of them are just their coat patterns, right? Like they're just different colors and things like that.
Yeah, I think it's based on location and coat pattern.
Yeah.
And so that's what some of the things some of them are so isolated that they probably wouldn't get a chance to breed with another one type
Another
deal.
species, yeah. Or another subspecies in the other part of Africa. Now, we covered a lot of this evolution in Okapi, so I'm just going to go over it really quick. The Giraffes, which is the Okapi and giraffe, split 25 million years ago. So they had a new group with cattle, deer, and antelope. Again, climate change was driving this. The really subtropics around that time gave way to more large grasslands and woodlands. So giraffes, kind of evolved because reaching the canopy was really an advantage. And we'll talk about this in a little bit more. Looking through the evolution, we can track, just like horses. That's why I love using horses as a tool to study evolution, the changes over time. So looking at these old relatives of giraffes, we can see how the necks have gotten longer and longer over time. And the theory, and there's a couple competing theories, but the main theory is that the longer necks gave advantage to reaching browse that others couldn't, right? Like the kudu. Kudu's a very large hoof stock.
Gorgeous, right? Gorgeous horns. Spiral. Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. But giraffes could reach way up higher than they could. So they actually had a competitive advantage in evolving that. And so over time, they were able to get these long necks. Now, I did read this. This was pretty interesting too. Longer neck giraffes, have higher mortality, especially during drought.
Sure, it makes sense. You're bigger.
Yeah, bigger, you need more nutrients. So if there's a drought, and I can't go down to Ralph's here, which is like amazing in California. Get back to the States, man. I walk through the vegetables and I'm like, oh my God, where have you been? Because in New Zealand, we have like 5 vegetables we can eat and like 4 pieces of fruit. Here, there's like 1,000. I'm like, oh my God, the States. I love you.
So yes, we are spoiled for sure.
But in a drought, or if that goes away, Angie, I'm screwed. You're fine. I'm screwed.
Yeah, no, the taller is not always better, especially in times of lower nutrients. And
flying over the Pacific Ocean is the worst.
Yes, I would imagine. I assumed you probably weren't riding in first class, but
no, can't quite afford it. I think it's like $15,000.
Oh, I couldn't even imagine. That's goofy.
That's insane.
That's silly.
Yeah.
But no, and Chris, I read an interesting theory too with the necks. Of course, the one that you mentioned about for being able to reach the different types of browse on the tops of the trees. I think that's the predominant one. But some other side theories, which you gotta love it, and I don't think they're conspiracy theories. I think they really are discussed in the giraffe evolutionary world community, is that the necks potentially evolved to be longer as for mate selection. So the females were like in the peacock, right? The male peacock is just his feathers are just crazy ridiculous, where the female is just kind of boring.
The beehive is just hideous.
And so it was one of those things where the females were more attracted to the males with the longer necks, and then of course we'll talk a little bit when we get to behavior about how males neck fight for dominance and for impressing females and things like that. So that maybe that's why the ones that had the longer necks did better. Females liked them more, hence the genetic pool. But the counter argument to that is, well, why do females have long necks as well, right? So both males, and so that one kind of got thrown under the bus, and that, as far as that goes, but I don't know. Potentially maybe female. Yeah, who knows? I think it's just.
Well, I mean, you think about it because it's an interesting discussion. So we can talk about this for a second. Okay, evolution. You and I understand evolution, how evolution works, right? So if you're a giraffe and you have a kudu who can reach 6 to 10 feet if they stand. I mean, do they stand up? I know there's some certain species of antelope. That
sure, they'll go on their hind legs. Yeah.
Yeah. So why did they 18 feet?
Right.
I mean, 14 feet for the female, I guess. So they're at a level above those large other ruminants or ungulates. And then the males, I mean, it's interesting because you really think about how high did they have to go?
How high did they have to go? And why did they stop where they stopped? Or we're all still evolving, so they probably haven't stopped.
That's true.
But no, it really is quite interesting.
But then you think about it, like the tree canopy. I mean, to reach some of these trees, they got to be that tall, right? It's not just bushes. It's like you got some big trees in Africa, right? I mean, you've been there, and so you've seen them. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and some of the savannas too. The trees, they are tall, but they're sparse too. Right. So if you can add that extra top of the canopy to your browsing palette
menu,
menu, you have like this whole new selection that basically way out competes a lot of the other hoof stock for sure. So, and with that being said, Chris and I are talking too about how they're a browser, and we'll get to a little bit more nutrition, but that just means that they eat the leaves of the trees and the stems sometimes and things like that. Yeah,
they're not.
Yeah, exactly. They're not down on the grasslands grazing like you would see zebras doing.
Yeah, your favorites. Now, I got to ask you this: as Xander's mama, who's the tallest creature ever?
Oh, the tallest creature
I bet you
ever.
Xander knows.
Oh, he totally knows. How wrong would it be if I woke him up?
I would. Yeah, don't wake him up. I don't think Dad would be happy.
I would say John would not be pleased about that. But I think I've read enough of these books. Okay. I think I'm gonna the Apatosaurus.
Okay, I actually had to research this for a while, and I found some competing information.
I don't think it's the Brachiosaurus, which when we were little kids was called the Brontosaurus. So that even shows how old we are. It's no longer the Brontosaurus; it's the Brachiosaurus. Yeah. Apatosaurus is a really tall one. Diplodocus is kind of tall as well. Well,
remember we talked about Argentinosaurus.
Is that the tallest one?
Okay, so no. So, I saw some data on it. So the sauropods, or the titanosaurs, is what they call them.
Yes, that is a chapter in one of the books I read. Yes.
Okay. Alamosaurus is the one that I found. Of all the data I could find, and I didn't spend hours on this. I spent probably a good 30 minutes plus looking for it, so I thought it was interesting.
I love that you did that. That's like amazing. I went down a few rabbit holes myself this podcast session.
Now, could you guess how tall they stood?
So this is the Allosaurus. I'm going to check with Xander.
Alamosaurus is the one.
Okay, Alamosaurus. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely read about that one. It sounds familiar. How tall? Okay, let me throw out some numbers here. Are we going to do meters or feet? Which one do you want me to do?
Feet. Let's do feet.
Feet. Yeah. Okay, feet. 80 feet.
Yeah, good. Ding. Yeah, 88.
See?
88. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Dino
awesome.
Mama.
That's, I've read a lot of dino books. So
that's good. 88 feet. Yeah. That's
some
good.
of those numbers.
27 meters.
I couldn't get the name, darn it. But yeah.
Okay. Like almost 10 stories. Tall. And that's not even like stretching. That's just them walking. And 74 tons, but that's British tons. So I don't even know what the heck that is in U.S. tons. But
wow. I'm like looking up at my ceiling trying to think what that would even be like looking up.
Enormous. So I think they found some leg bones and stuff, and then they just guesstimate based on that. But I know Argentinosaurus is one of the big ones. Okay. but not related to giraffes at all.
No, we kind of went on a little dinosaur tangent. Sorry, folks.
It's always fun. So, this was a surprising factoid. Giraffes only live 15 to 20 years. I did not know that. I thought they lived a little bit longer.
So
in the wild. No, I'm putting it in the wild.
Okay, so in the wild, I read up to 25 years.
Okay, 15 to 25 years in that range, right?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, Chris, that's not really that long, I guess, compared to a lot of the animals we typically cover.
Rhinos.
When we think of horses or rhinos or elephants. But for ruminants that they compete with, so the kudu and other probably the Cape buffalo, I can't remember its life span.
Yeah, it was like
off the top of my
25
head.
years or something like that.
The giraffes have a higher adult survival probability and a longer lifespan compared to most of the other ruminants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I guess I would think since they're bigger, they should live a lot longer.
Because I think of elephants. Elephants live like 70, 80, 90 years sometimes.
Right. But I think for the ruminants that they're categorized with, it is longer. And
average,
now, and living under human care, I'm not sure if that gets expanded, like if it's more like 30
I read 40.
or if
San Diego Zoo, I think, had it at 40. It's like the longest that they've had.
So they can really extend it out then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, so like some other factoids on physiology, a single vertebrate can be 10 inches long, and they have 7 like us.
Okay. So, hey, I have a fun game for you.
Okay. Oh, great.
I'm now teaching an anatomy and physiology class.
That's right.
We just covered the skeletal system. So when we're talking about vertebra, we talked about cervical. So how many cervical do they have?
7.
That's on top, right? And then it goes into thoracic. How many thoracic do you have?
I don't know, 6.
Nah.
12.
Yeah. 12.
Okay. I did this in my horse book. It comes out in a few weeks.
Awesome. Well, if you play this game with me, I'm going to give you all of our listeners a chance, a little quick saying to never forget the answer. So what's it called? An anagram?
7, 12. Yeah. And then lumbar is 24. No, that's too many. 12. Yeah. 12 again, or 10, 7, 6, 5.
5.
4?
5. Yeah.
5 lumbar?
Really? So are you ready for it?
Is that in us too, or is that in horses?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know about horses. Sorry, this is all humans. I think it's it might not be the same in
similar.
horses.
Horses have.
I don't know.
Back, so.
But yeah. So for humans, it is breakfast at 7, lunch at 12, dinner at 5. Yeah. So cervical 7, lunch.
There you go. Okay.
5. I'm sorry, lunch 12, and I'm confusing myself. And then dinner is lumbar at 5 p.m.
Okay. So what about sacral?
They're fused, and so in humans, it's 5 sacrum, and then coccyx fused 4.
Okay. Hey, look at you, smart Dr. Angie.
Oh,
so how fast can giraffes run? Huh? Did you find that factoid?
I did, and I was really impressed by it, and actually a little I was taken back a little. I was like, holy smokes, I didn't know they could go that fast.
Yeah, 35 miles per hour, 56 kilometers per hour.
And
they walk at a special gait.
Oh, they walk at a special gait, but they can also sustain 30 miles an hour for several kilometers. That's pretty special.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for a while. They're not just like
predators,
to outrun them or and then yes, their gait is really cool. For people that aren't familiar, we probably covered it in camels, but their gait is called pace.
Yeah, when they walk, yeah. And so that's the same side legs moving together. So the right front and the right hind move forward, and then the left front and left hind move forward. So it's kind of a weird gait with that. And then they run at what we like.
The gallop.
Put a saddle on them. Yeah, put a saddle on them.
And that's and they only have the walk and the gallop. There is no in between, which is for other animals.
Interesting.
Like your dog or a horse has like a trot, like beat gait with each leg moving out. A dog has one somewhat similar. The camel, the giraffe does not have that. So
yeah.
And then
you were talking about the markings, I was going to say real quick that they're all individual, like a fingerprint.
They're snowflakes. Cool. Oh my goodness,
yeah,
exactly.
Cool, yeah.
Every camel is a snowflake. Yeah. Why do I keep saying camel? Oh my gosh. Every giraffe is a snowflake, which even though they're super adorable, that makes them even more precious, I guess.
And then do you want to talk about the ossicones? Your favorites?
Yes. Hello. Okay. Do you know me by now?
Yeah,
of course. So they male and females, both sexes, have horn-like structures that stick out of their head, not super far. So if you're listening right now thinking that we are crazy, that's okay because they only stick out, several inches. And they're called ossicones because they're basically formed from ossified cartilage. And they're covered in skin too, and they're fused to the skull, and they're fused, just more skeletal facts since I'm with my class right now, my poor class doing the skeleton. But they're fused to the parietal bone, which is kind of like the side of your head, not the temporal bone by your temple, but a little bit more back, and then and then it rolls up into the top. So they're fused to that part of the skull, and they are vascularized. And researchers believe that they have a role, these ossicones have a role in thermoregulation. And of course, with males who will combat each other, we'll get into that a little bit more during breeding. The horns can be used kind of as weapons with that. And the other thing too, if you've been to up and close and personal with a giraffe, I don't know, I'm sure you have, Chris, and I have.
Yeah, and you're seeing them pop up like around the world because even down in Hamilton, they do this. They're doing giraffe feedings.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
They're a favorite.
It's really fun for the kids.
It's a favorite in our family for sure. It's when you talk about being just that. Of course, you're like in protected contact, but being that close to where you can really feel and see their height and interact with them. But they, if you are ever up close to one, and if you're probably doing a feeding, I don't know if it would be a male. It probably depends on how well trained it is. But they a lot of times have calcium, especially the males, have calcium deposits that form bumps on their skulls and on their ossicones as they age. So if you ever see a giraffe and you think that they have like skull or ossicone or
bites.
Like tumors or something, that's just a natural phenomenon as they age. They're basically they deposit more calcium to form these bumps, which is, I don't know if I highly doubt they have a postdoc studying why that is or how that helps the animal. But I mean, the animal is still totally healthy. There's no issues with that. That's a very normal aging process, especially in the males.
Right. Some of the predators I thought was kind of interesting. So humans are a big one for them. Lions can take down giraffes sometimes, probably younger ones too, or subadults. Crocodiles, which good old crocodiles, can probably snap them and get them in there. But I did read when trying to evade predators, giraffes can like karate chop with their legs with enough force to crush a lion's skull. So,
sure. I would imagine. I mean, we always say in the zebra world that a kick from a zebra is about as powerful as a hand grenade because they get one shot. They get one. I mean, they get one shot to get out of there and get to safety or to injure a lion or whatever's after them. So, I mean, that's a zebra. So I imagine a giraffe would be pretty powerful as well. They might not be quite as agile as a zebra. But I'm sure it's pretty powerful for sure. They are. I mean,
so like we said, they're browsers. They get leaves from high up in the canopy. They're ruminants, so they got 4-chamber stomachs, almost like a cow. They eat about 75 pounds or 34 kilograms of food per day. So when you were saying they're pretty interactive, they're active when you're on safari because they got to eat all day. It's just like
How much was that again?
75 pounds. On average.
That's a lot of food.
Yeah. That's half of you. Not even half.
You're too kind. You're too times 3.
No, not my size. No. I'm not even that big.
Oh wait, no, definitely. Okay, maybe times 2. I meant times 2.
I meant that's 2/3 of you. That's 3/4 of Angie.
I am really bad at math at nighttime.
Yeah, you are. You are.
I'm only half listening to it. I was actually trying to find a good giraffe vocalization on the web as well. So let me start paying attention. Let me go to my nutrition slide. Okay, let's get serious.
So now they love acacia leaves, which acacia trees are pretty much standard around Africa. And they have these sharp thorns, which I thought was really interesting. Let me ask you this. Do you know how long their tongue is?
I do.
Okay. You know everything. 18 inches, 46 centimeters. And they have this prehensile lip.
And what color is their
And so
tongue, though?
when
What color? That's the coolest part.
Black.
Purple
That's
black.
cool.
Yeah, purple black. Yeah, kind of like a chow dog or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they don't get sunburnt, right? Their tongues don't get sunburnt. That's what I read. It was pretty cool. And so when they eat these acacia leaves, sometimes they'll get sticky thorns, or they'll get these sharp thorns. Their saliva is so sticky, it covers it. And so they swallow it no problem.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So their saliva is like really just gross. So when you do go to a giraffe feeding, that's what they do. And you can kind of get some of their saliva on you.
Bring it on.
Gross,
no.
But yeah.
Well, and I was also reading that they'll feed on shrubs, and they will, if they have to, feed on a little bit of grass and fruit sometimes. And of course, they're an herbivore. I'm sure you said that at the beginning. But they've been known to visit carcasses and lick the dried meat off the bones. But I always wonder too, is that like for salt maybe, or it's, it's interesting. But the other cool factoid is that they really only have to drink every couple days. They do not need to drink every day. And it's probably because they get a lot of moisture from the plants they eat. So every few days is okay.
It makes sense. It's just like, even a grazer, and I always talk about this, like just say with horses, it's in the spring when everything's green, they generally don't drink as much water because they're getting so much moisture content from the grasses. But say late summer when there's a lot of brown or dry forage, these animals need to drink more often. So when they're browsing, they're getting quite a bit of moisture out of those leaves. So they don't need quite as much.
Yeah. Well, and I love the digestive system as well. So like you mentioned, of course, they're ruminants and they have 4 chambers in their stomach. But their intestines, where they absorb a lot of the nutrients from the different foods that they eat. How between the small and then large intestine? I'm like reading. Whoa. In the adult giraffe, how long do you think their small and large intestines were if you were to unravel them?
200 feet.
Whoa, good. 230 feet. Yeah. 230 feet.
Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. Now the large, what is that? 15 feet?
I don't have the numbers broken down in front of me, but what I read though is that they do have a relative small ratio of small to large intestines. So it's probably more large.
Yeah, small intestines like so long. I think in horses it's like 120 feet or something. So it's so crazy long. It's just wrapped in there. And I've been through a couple colic surgeries with horses, and it's sitting in on it, and it's amazing, all those guts.
Oh yeah, even in the human, it's very impressive. But and a giraffe, everything is, since their size is so big. I love those factoids. And wait till
why didn't we look that up with the blue whale? I can only imagine how long their intestines are. Yeah,
wait till, if you stick with us till we get into the cardiovascular system at the very end. Wait till you find out how big their heart is.
Yes, it's huge. All right, so let's talk a little bit about behavior.
Sure, and if you'll stand by, I have a special guest.
So welcome back to the podcast, the man, the myth, the legend. We've actually been talking about you, John. Lots of good things, lots of good stuff about you. But Angie wanted to bring you in because you've actually, this is awesome. I don't know if we're going to have a giraffe off because I don't even know their vocalization.
It'll be a very quiet giraffe off if we do one. So we'll probably skip that one.
We'll let you win this time.
Thank you.
And, but Angie said you got to work with them quite a bit. So I think, just telling the listeners about, what's it like to work with giraffes and just some of their crazy behaviors or different behaviors that you've noticed over the years?
So I did get a chance to work with them for a few different years, a couple of years, one facility mostly. They're a really incredible animal to work with, giraffe. The thing that my first impression of a giraffe actually being near one, so you see them on TV or you see them at a zoo, you see them from far away. Wow, they're huge, they're enormous. When I first walked into a barn and the giant male swung his head down towards me and looked me, eye to eye with his humongous eyeball. They have enormous heads and enormous eyeballs. And
a softball,
it's really like a softball.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are incredible. It's tough to really articulate how large they really are. And so it just has a huge impact on you. You realize I'm a very small individual.
Small person.
When you come close to them. So it just has a huge impact. And as a species, they are, again, they're very unique. It's interesting because they are hoof stocks. I know you guys have touched on a couple different hoof stock in the podcast. And so they have that same sort of hoof stock mentality. They're herd together, generally male dominated. Females make up the core of the group, that sort of stuff. But they are much more cautious than just about every hoof stock I've ever worked with. So they are very cautious individuals, even though you think of them, they're humongous and they are powerful. You know, some of the interesting things about them with the way that they protect themselves from predators. So they are attacked by predators, but they can protect themselves with their kick. They have immensely powerful kicks, but they can actually kick in any direction. So it's very unique.
Okay, yeah.
Horses, right? They'll kick mostly backwards.
Yeah.
But these guys, they will kick backwards, sideways, forwards. So they'll kick in any direction. So and they have that large head. The males normally use that head. That head becomes very calcified. It becomes like a like a ball, a big heavy ball on the end of a big chain. Yeah.
Battering ram.
And so they can knock that head. Usually the males will knock heads together or knock heads against their necks to compete for females. But they have that as a weapon they can use as well. So you have this really well-equipped animal, but they're still extremely cautious. If there's anything that's new in their environment, they pay attention to it, and they are very timid about new things in their environment. There was one time when I was working with them, and they had a habitat, their exhibit they were on during the day, and then at night they would come into a holding area. There was a holding yard, and I forgot a rake in that yard at one point. And
oh no,
they would not come in. They would not come into the holding yard. And this is a rake, an inanimate object. And I couldn't for a while. I couldn't figure out what was going on until I realized that this rake was left there. I had to go back out, get the rake, move it, get it out of the way, put it back, and then they would come into the yard after the rake was gone. Yeah, they're
crazy.
Really incredible.
Yeah,
incredible animal. They really are amazing with what they do. I know you guys touching on the physiology, and that is just its own amazing.
Like, I wanted to ask you, like, when they're walking, are they? Because I mean, I've seen them shift, from the service areas out on the exhibit. I never really paid attention. Are they really cognizant where they place their feet? Like, it's just
they are, yeah. So they can, they mostly are. They're very cognizant where they put their feet. They usually walk slowly, but they can run. I mean, they can run.
Yeah, they take off. Yeah,
they take off. And if they're spooked, they will do that. But they are very specific about where they put their feet. Some interesting things. They don't like to step down, so that you could actually, if you view them in a zoological facility under especially here in the United States, you usually will see them with large fences enclosing them. You get 10-foot, 12-foot fences. You could actually hold them in a yard with a drop of about a foot or two. If you just had a layer of rocks and then you dropped from one layer to the next at about 2 feet, they wouldn't go over that because they don't like to step down. So it's really kind of this interesting idiosyncrasies with this animal, which makes them unique. I had a really amazing experience with. We had lots of experiences with them, and I had a lot of amazing experiences with them. But this one interesting situation, we had an adult female who was a little bit older, and she was starting to have hoof problems. And like a lot of your hoof stock, they need hoof trims. A lot of your horses, right? You're supposed to be trimming their hoofs. It's a little bit more difficult to get your hands on a giraffe hoof. So a lot of them are trained to go into what we call a chute. It's just an enclosed area where you can get access to their feet. This older female had poor experiences with the chute system early on in her life, so she was very reluctant to go into it. And a lot of animals use operant conditioning training to get them into this. She was extremely stubborn, and it was a challenge, and we could not get her into this chute. So it essentially got to the point where we knew we had to mobilize her to do a hoof trim. And that brings about its own issues with the giraffe. If you mobilize an animal, it isn't like, it's not like the cartoons, the movies where you dart them and they fall down immediately. But they will fall down. Animals will fall down asleep. So with the giraffe, the concern was if that head, she was close to 18 foot tall. That 18-foot tall head comes crashing down to the ground. She could break a vertebrae. She could damage her head.
Kill herself. Yeah.
So we constructed this plan with veterinarians, with zookeepers, with curators, where we would actually use mountain climbing equipment. We put a harness on her head. We'd strap a rope onto that. It would go up to a pulley in her stall, go sideways to another pulley in a different stall, and go down to the ground. And then when she was immobilized, we would lower her head to the ground.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the other end of the head, in the other stall, was me. So I was the one who actually had to lower her head to the ground using climbing equipment. If you've ever climbed and you've belayed somebody, you've belayed a partner, I basically had to belay her head down to the ground.
Oh my gosh. And they're so heavy. They're huge.
So heavy. So you have to use your whole body. But with climbing, the way the system works, you don't actually have to hold up her whole weight. The rope actually does a lot of, but I had to use my whole body to sit back and do that. It was
not
a pretty launched. It was a pretty surreal experience. But again, it was a team effort. I had a lot of great team members. I was working with a great trainer that was able to actually get the harness on her. Great team of veterinarians. We got in there. We got her hooves trimmed, checked her all out. Yeah. It was pretty incredible. So, these animals have brought me a lot of joy and a lot of great experiences. And again, they are, they really have an impact on you. If you ever get a chance to go to a good quality zoological facility, and if they have these giraffe feedings, I know it seems a little cheesy. You're paying a couple dollars for a piece of romaine, but it really is something to get close to them and to get that experience, to really look them in the eye. They'll bring their head down to your level. It's really incredible, and I highly
my son loves it.
Oh, yeah.
He loved it when we did it.
Oh yeah.
It was at Lowry Park there in Tampa.
Our kids did it. We did it down in Naples Zoo, and it just it's an incredible experience. So I big fan of Giraffe. They got a special place in my heart. Really enjoy.
Just like pandas, right? Just like pandas.
Just like pandas. Again, every animal has its niche. Every animal fills its own special role. So,
Well, let's get Angie and do the giraffe off the whatever.
So honestly, I will say, I mean, I worked with them for years, and their vocalizations are practically indistinguishable. I mean, it literally is a hum. I mean, it's like a low level hum, and it's not even.
Yeah, they have low frequency, don't they? Just like the okapi.
But some of it, when you're with elephants, you can feel their vocalizations. With giraffe, I never felt their vocalizations. I could barely ever even detect the vocalizations. When people ask, what sound do they make, I essentially would say they really don't make vocalizations. I mean, the most vocalization they make is a snort. It's like, they just expelling some air, and it wasn't even it wasn't
communication.
It wasn't communication. It
non-vocal.
Exactly. Yeah. So it'll be a silent giraffe off.
You win. You win, John. Excellent. You win. Yeah, Angie talks too much.
I was going to say, I guarantee I can be more silent than her, so I win that one. But
look, when she comes back, I'll tell her you won. You won hands down this time.
No question.
This time you win.
No question. But it's they're great animals. They, you guys are talking about the ecological niches. I mean, they are just incredible.
They are. Yep. They are, and they need our protection.
Absolutely, they need our protection. They need our help. I mean, how to just even fathom these animals being in trouble or even heading towards extinction and not ever being around again. I mean, just consider this. I mean, it just is. Yeah, it's unthinkable. So I appreciate.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
But I appreciate everything you guys are doing to help draw attention. Appreciate all listeners out there. I know the audience is growing stronger and stronger. So hey, every little bit we can all do for animals is appreciated.
Yeah. No, well, thanks for coming on, John. This is great having you. I'm sure anytime we can bring you in, we're going to bring you in.
No problem at all. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these great animals.
Yeah. All right, take care, John.
Thanks, Chris.
Are you sitting down, Angie?
I am.
Okay, I've got some bad news for you.
Uh-oh.
You lost the giraffe off by far. By far you lost a giraffe off.
Was this a vocalization one or just?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you lost, and the listeners know why.
I didn't even try.
No, you don't have to try. You lose because you know why? John and I were talking. Giraffes don't make any noises, and you talk too much, so you lose.
Totally. I do. I would not be. That's why I wasn't a giraffe keeper. I was probably too loud for them.
Yeah. John's like, I could be a lot quieter than Angie for a lot longer times.
Oh my God, totally. That's why he's lucky he's with me. I make him talk about all of his feelings and all those deep thoughts. But good. I know his giraffe stories are amazing.
Yeah, he was great. I love having John on. We got to have John on more. But yeah,
he's
it was
a keeper.
Yeah, he's a keeper. There's the third pun of the day. Oh God. All right. So, how in the heck these guys breed? Like, how in the heck?
Sure. Well, so first of all, it takes them a little while. So males don't reach reproductive maturity until they're about 4 or 5. Okay. And typically they're not going to gain an opportunity to breed a female until they're 7 or 8. So when we talk about generation intervals, it's usually about 10 years in general for giraffes, which once again, when your population's stressed and your numbers are declining, these guys are slow to reproduce. Females, same thing, is about 4 or 5 is when they start cycling and are receptive to being bred. But in general, giraffes are polygamous, which means multiple males will breed fertile females. Okay. And just similar to most hoof stock that we've talked about, is male giraffes will assess a female's fertility by tasting her urine.
Yummy. That good old estrogen. Yum.
That good old estrogen, that spicy estrogen. And then
so gross.
when they do get a little bit of the taste or whiff of that, they will do the Flehmen response, where they lift their upper lip, which we've talked about, which is it's always cute. You've seen those in animal memes where a zebra or a donkey or a giraffe has their upper lip.
Lions do it.
Yeah, their upper lip curled in their nose, so they can really breathe those deep estrogens in and figure out where the female is in her cycle. But once, if she is receptive or is under the influence of estrogen, he'll lick her and he'll rest his head on her tail, nudge her with his horns, and just check out that she's receptive. And now all of this occurs only when the male has basically established himself the main man in the herd, the big machismo, dominant male, to do that. And that gets into a little bit more of how males use their necks, these long necks, and their ossicones or horns in behavioral combat known as necking. And I'm not talking about necking like when you and I remember from like
necking, yeah.
That might even have been my mom's. I think that was my mom's generation necking. I don't think that. Yeah. But yeah, so we're not talking about that kind of stuff. We're talking more about real battles to help establish dominance. And so there's considered low intensity and high intensity. And low intensity is probably just two males checking each other out, and they might lean and rub against each other and just see if somebody will back down. If a subordinate doesn't back down, then it might escalate into a high intensity necking match. They can last more than a half an hour, depending on how matched they are. And they'll basically spread their front legs and swing their necks at each other and attempt to hit each other with their ossicones and just bang each other with their necks. And usually it doesn't lead to serious injury, but there's been records of broken jaws, sometimes even death. But what's super interesting, and I always say this about guys, the difference between guys and girls. I played a lot of female sports when I was in high school, and women sometimes we tend to, and I don't want to stereotype, but for my own self, I'll tend to dwell on things after an incident happens. And so in sports, that can, like team sports, I was a volleyball player, that can be a bad thing if you're not like right back into the team and ready to go after the next point. But I always appreciate with guys is they get in a fight, they beat each other up, and then they go have a beer. Like they once they get out that testosterone, they're fine. Where women, we hold, not all, but a lot of them hold grudges, right? So interestingly enough, after a duel between two males, a lot of times two male giraffes will actually caress and court each other. And they'll do more kind of like making up and being nice with each other than is actually sometimes seen between a male and female couple. So they're like, "Hey, buddy, sorry, I just had to, I had to win my reproductive rights." So, right. But it's just, it's just really interesting. If you haven't seen a neck match, a necking match between giraffes, I highly recommend. They're on YouTube or. Of course, some of the Discovery shows.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to put a link in.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, they're powerful, and like I said, some people, there is a theory out there that's been part of the reason why their necks have been evolved to be so long. But who knows what came first, the chicken or the egg? Right? Did they have to reach trees, or did they need to fight each other? But switching gears to the female and this long generational interval. Is females are pregnant for about 450 days, which I think is 15 months. If I just do the math really quick in my head.
Long. Yeah, long time.
Yeah, a long time. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I was over it at like month 7.
7. Yeah. Like, get out of me.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
And then some other interesting, I think, facts is that if you can picture this, a mother giraffe gives birth by standing up and walking.
Right.
So there is no like horses. Chris and I are used to horses where they lay down, but they don't, and which means
it's a long drop.
And I think there's been some cool.
Long drop.
It's a long drop. That's about 2 meters, or what is that? 6 feet.
Yeah, 6 feet. Their legs. Yeah.
So your height.
Yeah, it's a bang on the ground.
Yeah,
welcome,
welcome. So that's an interesting why they don't lay down. Probably has something to do with not being able to get up quick. They're a little slower to get up than horses, or who knows? Maybe that's just the way they have to. Actually, they probably need gravity. I don't know. But check this out: a newborn giraffe is also about 2 meters tall.
Yeah, they're big.
So theoretically, it's probably not as it's not as big a fall because they already are pretty
stretched down.
Big. They're already pretty tall, so they're pretty stretched out. But just like similar to other horses or hoof stock, there within a few hours the calf is running around. Yeah. And within the 1 to 3 weeks, it's been a lot of its time hiding. And when the calves are really young, the mothers will often gather in nursery herds. So they'll move together and browse together. And then mothers in this type of group may sometimes leave their calf with another female while they go forage and drink somewhere else. It's known as a calving pool or sometimes a creche. And, so babysitters. So I think that's, you can let your
it's kind of cool.
auntie babysit you, or that must be nice. It's, I wish I had my giraffe herd family around to help me babysit sometimes.
Hint.
hint, mom, sister.
Get here now.
Brother. And then now the dads don't play much role in raising the young, but they're friendly. Like they're nice guys. They just don't really do too much for the kids. Yeah. And then how long the offspring stays on their mom's side depends on if she gets pregnant. Usually she calves maybe every 2nd to 3rd year. And then sadly enough, once again, only about 50% of calves survive the first year due to predators and all that. So once again, we're thinking about this generation interval. It's hard. If we just start saving them, and it's not going to, their population is not going to rebound right away. It's going to take years and years and years because of all of these factors.
Right. Now, did you know what a group of giraffes is called? Like the dad's a bull, the mom's a cow, you said a calf. What's a group of giraffes?
Is it a herd?
No, tower. It could be a herd too, I guess. I think it's a herd. They call them group of giraffes is called a tower.
Oh, cool. I love it. That's fantastic, Chris. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, so, a tower of giraffes. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. It's pretty great. Now, we talked about their conservation already. They're in decline. So some of the organizations that are specific to giraffe.
Yeah, Chris, I found this really amazing group called the Giraffe Conservation Foundation, or GCF. And it's actually the only NGO in the world that concentrates solely on the conservation and management of giraffe in the wild throughout Africa. So they're dedicated strictly to giraffe conservation, and which really sets them apart from a lot of the other different organizations that have that take care of or work with multiple species. So I thought that was really awesome. Mm-hmm. And they can be found at giraffeconservation.org, and they have a beautiful presence on Facebook, which Chris and I will link you to. Mm-hmm. And this group is just amazing. They're all over the place. They have programs in several different countries, including Kenya, Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo, Namibia, Zambia, Tanzania, Ethiopia. And they have several programs that you can find on their webpage that talks about all the really cool projects they work on and how their funds go to directly helping giraffes in the wild of Africa. But for instance, just recently in September, they have been supporting the Uganda Wildlife Authority to successfully translocate endangered Nubian giraffes to a safe spot. So that would be one of the subspecies, Nubian giraffes, and their numbers are really, really low. So they do a lot of translocating projects. They do a lot of population counts, population assessments, working with locals in the area. And another, for example, they use trackers to help tag giraffes and learn more about where they're going and basically where they're living to help provide them the protection they need from poachers and, of course, just pretty much other human threats. And then, of course, the group is really active in what is known as World Giraffe Day. We were recently celebrating World Rhino Day. But World Giraffe Day is an exciting event, and it's actually initiated by this group to help celebrate giraffes. And so we'll remind our listeners that it's June 21st every year. So we missed it this year, but we will not miss it. Now that I know this, we will not miss it next year. Yeah. And then they have a blog. They have all the research on online, and of course you can adopt a giraffe as well. So there's plenty of ways to learn more about them and help support this organization. So please go check out their website, or definitely give them a like on Facebook. If you are a fan of giraffes, your feed will be inundated with these beautiful creatures and amazing videos that, of course, are all from the wilds of Africa where they live. So yeah, check out Giraffe Conservation Foundation. Do yourself a favor and learn a lot more about these guys.
No, yeah, for sure. We'll put the links up now. Conservation tip of the week, Angie. This one's a little bit different. So again, reducing energy consumption. One of the things people don't really think about, because sometimes, especially when you own a home, you don't think about doing this. You need to change your air filters, because the more dirt that's in your air filter, the harder your either air conditioning or your heater is working. And that means more energy. So if you change that filter, you will reduce your energy footprint. Now, rules of thumb. If it's a vacation home or you're just by yourself, with no pets, or you have no allergies, you can replace that filter every 6 to 12 months. So every year or, every few months. Now, the average home.
Lots of pets and with busy pets, children
and
dirty mamas.
Yes. You should change it every 90 days.
Wow.
Every 90 days you need to change your filter.
I don't think we're doing that. I'm just going to throw that out there.
No, you're not. I guarantee you're not. And then for every dog or cat you have, so you have a dog and 2 cats, it's every 60 days, wow. John. So tell your husband, yeah. And if you have lots of pets, it should be every 20 to 45 days. So, because all that pet dander gets stuck in there. I know for a fact I didn't do that. So the next home I own, I will be making sure at least every 3 months.
I was just going to say, they're cheap. I think the key is to just buy like 10 of them. Yeah. And then, especially if you have storage in your home, or maybe even 5 of them or something like that. And just, that way they're there. Garage, you don't have to put it on your grocery list if they're there and you have it on your calendar, you're going to be more likely to do it. And that's, that's a really good tip. But it makes a lot of sense. So I'll have to talk with John about that and try to get that ball rolling, because every little
you got to make sure you get the right size. That's the
that
nightmare.
is the
You gotta make
key.
sure you open
And
it
I do
up.
remember that our unit has a weird one, but once we find it, that's why we should buy a lot of them, because it's a weird one. So then we have them on hand.
Yeah, they're pretty cheap. Now, what we promised, Angie, the circulatory system. So you said how big they are. I will just give the weight. The weight of the heart is 1/4 of you. How about that? 25 pounds.
I would say about 1/5 to 1/6, depending on what cycle of birth, gestation, lactation I'm in.
So it weighs 11 kilograms. Now you said, how big was it? How long?
Oh, I was just going to do the weight, the 11 kilograms.
You did the weight? I took it. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I want to, the way that I thought about it is 25 pounds is how much Zachary weighs, my son, my 2-year-old. Just turned 2 last week.
Crazy. And they're 2 feet long. So they have to generate blood pressure, right?
2 feet long. Wow, that's incredible. Yeah.
So their blood pressure needs to be twice that of a human to maintain blood flow to the brain. Mm-hmm. So this powerful heart pumps all that blood, and so they maintain
60 liters to be precise every minute.
Right. Their heart wall thickness, here you go, maybe this is a factoid for your class, 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. So they have really thick heart muscle. Now, do you read about their heart rate? This was kind of cool.
I did.
Yeah, 150 beats per minute, which is crazy. Us normal, 60, rest, 60, 80, less, 150 is like when you're exercising, pretty well. Now, you want to tell everybody what happens when they drink?
Sure. This is one of the reasons I became a physiologist, this class between camels and giraffes. Mm-hmm. So when a giraffe is thirsty, and every 3 days it goes to get a drink, and it has to reach its head down to a watering hole. Mm-hmm. Well, its neck is not long enough to just bend down and reach. So it actually has to spread, for those of you that haven't seen it has to spread its front feet and kind of bend them in a little bit, and then it can drink. Well, its head, if anybody's ever stood up too quickly, right, or sat down too quickly, you can get lightheaded from blood either flowing to your brain or away from your brain. And so when they lower their head down below their heart, the blood should be basically pouring down into their brain, right? Like it should be, but it doesn't. And so this is because giraffes have special valves in their jugular veins, which close when a giraffe bends down, and this reduces pressure on the brain, and it stops the excess blood flowing into the head. Mm-hmm. And then after they're done drinking, when they raise their head, the valves reopen so that the blood can then start to go back to the brain as normal.
Yeah.
And then alongside this, like you said, they have the thick muscles, right? What did you say they had thick?
Well, the thick heart muscle to help pump.
The thick heart muscle, right? Strong muscle. But as far as drinking and raising and lowering their head goes, they have elastic-walled blood vessels that will expand and contract appropriately to basically, if you think of like a hose gauge, to help blood flowing to the brain to reduce pressure and or increase it.
Yeah. It's a crazy physiological adaptation.
Right. And then just lastly, they have like basically a sponge-like structure to help contain any excess blood flowing to the brain when their head's down. Yeah. So just in case some leak through, because your toddler leaves a hose on or something, whatever. Just in case they have this the spongy-like structure to catch any extra blood. So just really cool. Incredible.
Really cool animal.
And Chris and I can say they're so cool, and they are cool, and because we're physiological dorks, right? And Chris, we're not the only ones. NASA, like the NASA.
My favorite, Cape Canaveral.
You always would take Rourke and Wyatt, Cape Canaveral. They have done research on the blood vessels in giraffe legs to help get inspiration for human spacesuits and how to help better develop them.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Say giraffes. They're going to get us to Mars. Giraffes are going to get us to Mars.
Final answer. If you take home nothing from this podcast.
yes. There you go. So just for us this week, if you could just share this episode, go on your Facebook, say, hey, check out this podcast. It's really great. You learn a lot. It's fun. We have a good time doing it. You know, we're going to come out with a new species next week. Just share it on your Facebook or social media. We would love you. We would love you. And just from me and Angie, thank you. Thank you for listening to Giraffes. And we'll be back with something cool next week. Right, Angie?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And it's always a pleasure to learn and share.
Listen, learn, share. Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.